I am Rob.
And I am Louie.
And this is the In-Depth VR review by
Barefoot Gaming.
In-Depth. Louie, what's the story? What's the dealio? The happening?
The dealy and the happening and all the other pizzazz of it all doesn't really work, but I'm gonna run with it.
I appreciate that about you, Louie.
You're dead and you're in purgatory, and the only way to get out of purgatory is to sort through the mess of demons and angelic creatures and all the other scum of the universe that's also in the dead zone with you in purgatory. And you kill those guys with arrows, mostly.
Yeah, it's a bow shooter.
Yep.
And what sets it apart is this is procedurally generated. So every time you play it, the map will come up differently. So the enemies will all spawn in different places every single time. So this is kind of what some call roguelike, in the sense that you're trying to get from point A to the end, but in doing so, you're building up experience points, you're building up... What else are you building up, Louie?
You're building up your cash inventory, your gold. But not only that, but every time you play and eventually you die, the next game is more difficult.
Yeah, so it's neat. It doesn't punish you, it scales with you.
Yep.
So you start getting better at your headshots, you start getting at, and you start unlocking these achievements.
Yep.
And the more achievements you unlock, the harder the game gets.
Yep.
Which makes it easier to make more achievements, which makes the game harder.
Yep.
And round it goes.
And the more achievements and the harder it gets, the more enemies will spawn, and not just more enemies, but different enemies.
Yeah, so I'll give a quick example. In the beginning, the very first time I played through, all of the enemies that had swords only had swords. Yep. And as we played further, all of a sudden they've got swords and shields. And then we play further and they've actually got throwing axes and shields.
Yep.
And it works that way with all the enemies. Now, how you get around the map, this is a standing, seated, room scale game. Now, if you are doing this seated, it would just be very difficult.
Yes.
I really wouldn't recommend this as seated. It will work because there is snap turning.
Yep.
There is free locomotion, but there is also a teleport function, and it's done different than anything that's been done before.
Yes.
Louie, how do you teleport in this game?
It's amazing. I love it. I wish a lot more games did this. You get a fancy, glowy crystal that's kind of shimmery, and you throw it like you would throw a pebble, or maybe a pair of dice or something. You toss it ahead of you or above or below, and wherever that lands, as long as the game accepts where it lands is okay, it'll teleport you to that point. Now, if you've thrown it too far, you might end up right smack dab between 5 warlocks, and they're all throwing their magic garbage at you, and it kills you right away.
And it's neat, because the way they did it, by having to throw this, you can't just teleport jump around the map. Every time you appear, you kind of have to hold your button in again,
yep,
and then toss it again.
Yep.
So it has to land, it has to accept that landing location, yep, spot, and then teleport.
Yeah.
So if you're in a fight, that's a bad time to be teleporting.
Yes, and there's like a 1 second delay after it hits and it needs to accept it. So you can't just be in a firefight and it'll hit the ground and you expect to be gone. You're there for another second taking damage.
And enemies will teleport too. The enemy archers will teleport.
Yep.
So let's talk about weapons upgrades, because you earn the money, but what do you do with the money?
You spend it on upgrades. Now, the upgrades don't last from one game to the next. They're only good for the game you're in, right up until you die again, because you're already dead. Yeah,
I'm going to interrupt for just 1 second on that, because there is, like, once you're dead, you start again totally from scratch.
Yes.
There are no checkpoints. There is no, you get as far as you can in one run.
Yep.
That's it. Okay?
Yep.
Back to the arrows, please.
Yeah. There's several different arrows. There's the Cataclysm arrow, the ricocheting Cataclysm arrow, and the Cataclysm arrow basically just explodes. Whenever it hits a target, it explodes, so you can kill multiple enemies with that. You've got your freeze arrows,
which freeze them. Surprise.
But on a lot of enemies, they'll only do about half the damage that you need to kill them. Fire arrows seem to work an awful lot better. And again, it burns the enemy alive. And there is one other one which we've only tried a couple times, which is the needle arrow. And it works kind of like a shotgun blast. There's needles splinter off, but you got to be very close for it to be effective.
Yeah, if you shoot at distance, it does almost no damage.
Yeah.
And you do these upgrades at these special towers that you kind of walk past in going towards the abomination, which is your end goal to beat. And he is big. So there's the one boss that you have to fight and beat. And then, again, you just try to do better and better. Also, I should mention right now, as we're reviewing this is early access. So there are still limited enemies. It feels like there's more than there are because of how many variants there are of each enemy. And there's a demo mode. Now, this seems silly, but I started playing this before Louis tried it.
Yep.
And I've been playing for a little while.
A lot.
I had been making everything more and more difficult. And when he stepped in, like after I died, it was way harder for him right off the bat.
It was a literal bombardment of arrows and axes and swords and everything else it could throw at me. And I went, this game is just too hard. It's not even fun. But as I played around a little bit, I kind of got used to the controls. It's amazing. Probably one of the best bow shooters I've been in.
I feel like that means we're going to be getting to a review. So before I get to the review, the actual scoring pros, cons, this is available on the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality. So it runs the full gamut. And again, as early access, they will be adding more stuff. We don't know what. We know what they've promised online. But, I mean, it's too easy to let developers just say that. We need to see it before we actually score it. Louis, give me your pros, give me your cons, and out of 5, what do you score this?
My pros are just about everything in the game. It does a lot right. I think the only con is you're just going down what feels like the same corridors time after time. It changes directions and where you have to go, but the corridors feel the same. There's big stone walls and kind of cathedrals, but after a while, that's it. That's all my cons, is just the environment.
Okay, so out of 5, what are you giving it then?
Out of 5, I'm gonna give it a 4.9.
4.9
Yes.
out of 5. So this is near perfect for you.
It was fun. It was so much fun.
I really think they did the mechanics very well.
Yep.
And I would agree with you as to a con. The game is very pretty, by the way, which you can clearly tell by watching the overplay. And the game looks nicer in person. VR always does that. It always looks flat until you drop into VR. Now, the cons for me, again, I would say that the environment gets a little boring after a while. So developer, if you watch this, I would recommend that, you know, switch up maybe a couple more different kinds of environments.
Yeah.
But even that, the game is designed to be played, you know, that you just run through, get to the end, and the enemies will get harder and harder. So you did that exactly right. When you get to fight the abomination, the end bit is always exactly the same.
Yeah.
I don't even have a complaint about that because it takes you so long to get there that that's okay. Now we discovered, or Louis actually discovered, and I'm not going to call it a cheat, but by hopping from rooftop to rooftop throughout the entire area, you can negate a lot of the fighting. So if you just want to try to fight the boss, you know, you can get there quite a bit quicker by just taking rooftops.
Yep.
However, you're not getting any of the points then,
Yep.
so you're not getting the experience points, which means you're not going to have any of the powered up, or you're going to have very few of the powered up weapons for your final fight. I should also mention your health bar, there is no heads up display. Your health bar is on your bow.
Yes. Also, if you're using any of the specialty arrows, it's also on your bow right to the right of the health bar.
That's right, yeah. So, and you can hold it either your trackpad or your joystick, depending if you're using the Rift Vive or Mixed Reality, and that'll let you select what kind of arrow you want to shoot at. So, game totally surprised me, piles of fun. The replayability is there just strictly as a challenge. The game gets harder and harder and harder. And I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. Absolutely fantastic. This game is $20 US at regular price. If you can pick it up on a Steam sale or pick it up for cheaper, fantastic. But even at $20, if you like bow games, this is really neat.
Yep.
And that's it. That's the in-depth review by Barefoot Gaming. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't say bye yet. You haven't subscribed, you haven't liked, and you haven't commented. You can do that before you click the little X button in the top right. So that's it. Now we're out of here. I'll talk to you later. See ya.
Bye. Again.